Sandra Wheatley Smerdon has more than 20 years of experience developing and managing holistic marketing and communication strategies that drive business impact. Currently, as Senior Vice President of Marketing, Threat Intelligence, and Influencer Communications at Fortinet, Sandra is responsible for Fortinet's Threat Intelligence, Customer Marketing, Security Academy, and Veterans Training programs. Sandra has responsibility for all influencer communications, including corporate messaging, corporate reputation, thought leadership, digital marketing, public relations, social media, and executive communications. And prior to Fortinet, Sandra led a number of communications functions for leading technology brands, including Cisco, NetApp, and AMD. Sandra has served on multiple nonprofit boards and is a founding board member of US 2020, a White House initiative to improve STEM learning and increase the pipeline of STEM workers in the US. And our second distinguished panelist is Lisa Parcella, who is the Vice President of Product Management and Marketing at Security Innovation. Lisa's background is in security awareness, product management, marketing communications, and academia. And she leverages her experience to design and deliver comprehensive security-focused products and educational solutions for the company's diverse client base. Before joining Security Innovation, Lisa served as Vice President of Educational Services at SafeLight Security. She also serves as the Marketing, Social Media, and PR Lead for Women in Security and Privacy, which you all probably know as WISP. She's also a member of the International Consortium for Minority Cybersecurity Professionals, represents the consortium at industry conferences, and she's part of Security Innovation's Diversity and Inclusion team. So welcome to both of you. We're going to start with a few prepared questions, and then we'll leave time for Q&A. So for folks in the audience, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as you can. So to dive in, I want to just ask both of you to share just a minute about what you're doing now, and most importantly, what drew you to cybersecurity in the first place? Sandra, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Anne. I'm really happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to be here with Lisa as well. So thank you for the opportunity. So as you mentioned from my bio, I've been in IT pretty much my whole career. I did come into cybersecurity 5 years ago, and when I joined Fortinet, and I have to say, of all of the different IT industries that I've worked in, cybersecurity is definitely the most exciting and the most dynamic, and I've never looked back. I got into cybersecurity because I was actually doing some consulting for a company that was experiencing a breach. And it was something that went on for maybe 3 months, but it was incredibly exciting. And it really opened my eyes to how, cybersecurity is incredibly dynamic. It really touches all of us. And through that experience, I decided that my next job was going to be in cybersecurity. And Fortinet happened to reach out to me. So that's how I got into it. I think it's an exciting industry. There's a ton of opportunities. There's new jobs coming into the industry all the time. And I think it's a particularly great industry for women and minorities because the gap is so huge. It will take, 4 million professionals to close that gap. And it actually is one of the biggest challenges for cybersecurity organizations. So that is pretty much why I'm here and why I continue to be excited by this industry overall.
Oh, thanks, Sandra. Really interesting. And Lisa, I'll turn to you with the same question. What's your origin story in cybersecurity?
Sure, thank you. And again, pleased to be here. So thank you for the opportunity. So for me, I came into cybersecurity by way of education. So essentially, I was recruited by a cybersecurity firm about 10 years ago to help them build training programs. The unique challenge is that for cybersecurity, there's a lot of different aspects from security awareness, which is, training everyone on how to keep your password safe, all the way to all of the different disciplines within software security and how to help folks understand how to build secure applications, how to maintain secure environments, and how to defend against, threat actors. And so that's sort of where I started, was helping to build out these training programs. And my role has expanded from training programs to products, right? So just that universe has grown. And the challenges have been incredibly satisfying to try and tackle as, the threat landscape diversifies. And also you're working with, as Sandra mentions, the cybersecurity skills shortage is in part due to the fact that, universities not every university has a formal cybersecurity program, right? People come to this job from a myriad of different paths. And so there isn't this kind of bedrock or foundation of cybersecurity knowledge that you bring into the role. So looking to tackle that challenge through educational solutions and training has been incredibly rewarding and fun. And that's how I got here.
Thanks for that. I always love hearing the different pathways that people come to cybersecurity because, as you both have kind of mentioned, there isn't a standard pathway. Not all universities have a program. And so people kind of bootstrap their way in from different angles. And those stories are always really great to hear. So my next question, and you've both alluded to the skills gap in cybersecurity, and ICMCP's website puts front and center some daunting statistics for diversity and inclusion in our industry. Various measures put that the cybersecurity workforce for women representation is approximately 14%. 6% of STEM workers are Black or African American compared to a representation of 11% in the entire US workforce. Hispanics and Latinx people comprise only 7% of the STEM workforce, while making up 15% of the US workforce. And those are just a few of the numbers. So, you have both been committed for a long time and in your jobs to moving the needle on this. And I think, especially given everything that's happened in this past year, I'd love to hear from both of you. Are you seeing anything different in 2020 than you saw a year ago or 5 years ago? And Sandra, Lisa, let's start with you and then go to Sandra.
Sure. So for me, I'm seeing a proliferation of cybersecurity communities, right, that are promoting inclusion, initiating conversations, and just creating access to content and programs, right, to one, fill the general cybersecurity gap, but specific to different ethnically and racially diverse communities, right? So 5 years ago, you may have had a couple dozen, right? And then in the years, it's sort of grown. So organizations like ICMCP, like WICYS, like WISP, those communities are growing. And what's great about that is, that access, they're partnering with private organizations to create access to different types of training and mentorship programs and recruitment programs to kind of find a path into cybersecurity careers. And so I think the growth of those programs will hopefully, you'll start to see an even greater shift in those numbers and, applicants, and then not only coming in sort of at a junior level, but also hopefully cross-training, and career shift within organizations to kind of grow the diversity number.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great to hear that from your perspective, attention is growing, and that hopefully that will start to show up in the numbers. Sandra, what about you? What are you seeing differently this year than you had seen, a year ago or 5 years ago?
Well, I definitely think there is some good news. We're seeing progress. It may not be at the rate that we'd like to see, but it's definitely happening. I mean, you throw out some numbers and they're all over the map. And I think if, I've seen the number for women represented in cybersecurity to be as high as 24%. And a lot of that is attributed to the fact that many of these surveys really only measure technical jobs. But if you look at cybersecurity holistically and the different roles, women are probably around 24%. And I definitely, over the last 5 years, when I go to conferences, cybersecurity conferences, I see a lot more women than in the beginning. We do know that there are more female millennials coming into the industry. And the good news is that they're tending to be more rapidly moving into higher level jobs. And some of that is attributed to the fact that women tend to value certifications and training more than men. And a lot of those women have higher qualifications. And so that's standing to them. But the number of Blacks and Hispanics in cybersecurity continue to be extremely low. I think part of that can be attributed to the overall IT industry and the fact that many times the jobs go to where the people are. If you look at Silicon Valley, the representation of minority groups is alarmingly low. It's still in single digits. I do think there are a number of issues that we're dealing with that is really helping the representation of women, particularly, to go up. So you touched, Lisa touched on one issue. The amount of degrees in cybersecurity are very low. Berkeley is one of a few organizations that actually have cybersecurity curriculum and classes that focus on these degrees. The other thing is that people come to this industry from all different types of jobs. And so sometimes people are not aware of the pathways and how to get into these roles, particularly women, because there's this stereotypical idea of the male man, and this is a male industry. And so quite frankly, younger women are just not aware of the opportunities. But I do think that there are a lot of organizations realizing that public and private partnerships have to come together around this issue. We're working with the World Economic Forum to really look at ways to get more minorities and women into the industry. We're working with IBM and Salesforce. They have educational platforms. We're providing our training curriculum free on those platforms to people. Just during COVID, we had something like 500,000 registrations for that free curriculum. So people are hungry for more education and curriculum training around this industry. And I think working together, we can really make inroads.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think, you've both kind of alluded to the fact that we need more pathways into the industry, and that people don't, we need computer scientists, but people don't all have to come out of computer science departments or all have a PhD in machine learning to really contribute to the industry. And, certainly at CLTC, we keep trying to kind of put the word out there that in order to actually improve cybersecurity outcomes in the world, we have to be able to change who sees themselves in cybersecurity.
Exactly.
And so I think on that note, given what a gap there still is, I'm curious, what initiatives are you both seeing out there in the world that have the potential to spark really transformative change, and really move the needle? And Lisa, I'll go back to you on that one.
Sure. So I think, for me, it's all about doing the work, right? So I don't know that there's any sort of silver bullet, but certainly for cybersecurity, again, because the paths are so sort of windy, one thing that has been pretty successful is hiring from within, right? So identifying folks who have an interest in the work, giving them a channel to explore that interest and potentially pivot their existing career path. So that can be done through training programs, encouraging role diversity, and then mentorship, right? So making sure that you have the right folks in place to promote diversity and inclusion in a way where you feel like you're in a comfortable space in order to explore, that career change and see that opportunity ahead of you to understand the path that it might take. So again, I don't know that it's anything quick, but if you look, like ISC Squared put a report out saying that job satisfaction among ethnically and racially diverse professionals was at 75% compared to a US average of 78%, right? So pretty much on par. And then also 70% feeling that they're not overly valued, but are contributing strongly to their organization's success. So we see that the programs in place are working. And for me, it's about kind of staying the path and continuing to execute on those initiatives.
I agree with Lisa. I don't think there's a silver bullet, but I think there's many things that companies and nonprofit organizations are doing and working together. Each of these makes some kind of impact that is helping to move the needle. One of the things that we've found is been extremely successful in bringing both underserved, underrepresented groups into cybersecurity has been our veterans program. And so that's a pretty holistic program. So it's not just focused on cybersecurity training and curriculum, but it's also working with veterans to provide mentorship, interview, skills building, resume building, but also we've created pathways to different roles so that people can see what they need to achieve or how they can get there. So it's both educating on the opportunities and also helping to provide the mentorship and skills to achieve those. And when you look at something like veterans, you have much more diversity to begin with. And so we, have probably run about 1,000 veterans to our program. So far this year alone, we've been able to bridge to our customers and our partners to provide jobs, and 51 veterans have received jobs. We're also working with the spouses of veterans to get them into the industry. So these types of programs can really help to move the needle. And I also think educating different groups on the opportunities. So we're, getting out, we're visiting we're speaking at nonprofit events, we're working with nonprofits to provide more jobs and training. I would never tell somebody not to pursue a 4-year degree, but the reality is that there's other ways to get there. And so through, the kind of the guild program or the apprenticeship type of program, we're working with nonprofits to target younger groups and provide them the skills they need, and another vehicle to get into a very high paying and really successful career.
Yeah, I see Lisa and myself both nodding at those points about, it doesn't all have to be a 4-year degree.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would absolutely double down on something you both said about mentorship. And I want to call it out here because I think for this audience on this event, that's really a call for action. Everybody here that's on this webinar today could be a mentor to somebody. And so really just want to make sure people are taking away that message from both of your remarks.
Yeah, the other thing I would just like to add, it's a small thing, but I think it's important. I think companies, when they're recruiting, they really need to look at the language they're using and how they're marketing to various groups. And even internally, we've become much more concerned about the language we're using internally. So for example, we have what we call our Fortinet program, and we every quarter we identify people who have really had an outstanding quarter, and it's a mix of different groups and men and women. And, we had feedback that, the language in some of these when we're describing women was a little bit different to when we're describing men. And so we have a much bigger effort to be much more sensitive to that.
That makes a ton of sense. Yep. Well, I'm unfortunately gonna have to kind of move us towards concluding, although I feel like, it would be fun to talk to both of you for about 2 hours. But I think it would be really great for our audience to hear, we always try to conclude our panels by asking our guests, you are practitioners in the field, and a lot of the folks on this call are in the academic community. You know, so if you could wave a magic wand and have one wish for what academic research should look at next in order to make progress on some of these diversity and inclusion issues, what would it be? Like, you know, what advice do you have for the research community? And Lisa, I'll turn to you on that one first.
Sure. So for me, I'd love to look at these initiatives that we've discussed here today, right? The mentorship programs, the training programs, role diversity, you know, programs specific with veterans and children. So I serve on the BOSTEM Advisory Council, and it's an initiative based out of Boston where we're going into communities with middle schoolers, you know, elementary school children who don't have access to STEM careers. And, you know, we pair up with corporations and have them come in and show the students what's possible throughout STEM, and cybersecurity is one of the subfields from among that. And so, you know, given all the programs and initiatives that we see out there that we're working on, I'd love some academic research to look at what's working, right, and what's not working, because I think that, you know, directionally, we believe that we understand where we need to go, and we do see some positive outcomes happening. But you know, I think, like with anything, folks are trying a lot of things to try to solve for these gaps that we see in workforce makeup, and research that might look at, say, you know, the top 3 initiatives that they see kind of happening within, you know, the workplace, and just get a sense of what's working and what's not, right? Because kind of being able to quantify that, I think it's all very qualitative, but being able to get some better quantification on initiatives that are currently happening, playing them out just to see where we can do better, right? You know, just do more of what's working and maybe draw back some time and resources on things that aren't as successful.
I mean, I think especially, you know, in light of what you had said earlier about, it's great we have this proliferation of initiatives and attention in the past year or two, but yeah, what's working and what's not working. That really interesting. Thanks, Lisa. And yeah, Sandra, what would your advice to researchers be?
Probably similar to Lisa. I mean, I think we have a sense of what some of the issues are, but I think, you know, really exploring, you know, how do we reach these groups and educate them on the opportunities? What are, you know, what's working and what's not? Because I truly believe that a lot of people just don't understand what cybersecurity has to offer and what are the opportunities. And they are tremendous and they are exciting. And really understanding what's working, what's not working. What can employers be doing to attract more underrepresented groups, and almost create a blueprint for what they need to be doing differently? Because I do believe there is a lack of knowledge, there's a lack of understanding. And then how, when you get these groups into the workforce and into the industry, what can we be doing to keep them there? Because even when many of these groups come in, they don't stay, they leave, because there isn't the fairness, there isn't the support that they need to be successful. So I think really looking at this issue holistically and coming up with a blueprint for change would be really helpful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for the time and just for this really thought-provoking conversation. You know, I absolutely agree that, and thank you for the work that you're doing to make cybersecurity a place where, you know, different kinds of people see themselves and feel welcome and understand the contributions they can make. So thank you both, and look forward to talking with you again in the future.